Welcome everybody to our new session of our virtual Trend 2 series. Today's topic is logistics. My name is Natascha Zelko and I'm the co-founder and executive partner of CIRCULAZE, and I have the great pleasure to guide you through the evening tonight. A short explanation about our program CIRCULAZE, about our initiative. My co-founder Klaus Schuster and me, we started CIRCULAZE about 1 year ago. It was early summer, spring 2022. And the goal is to build up a platform for all players within the ecosystem of circular economy. These are startups and companies for sure, but also we have experts, we have experts, we have also investors, we have young talents as well. And now I see, this was our founder from France, who you saw in the video shortly. We will introduce you to our startup founder later from France. It's Benoit. Yeah, our initiative was built in order to raise awareness on the topic of circular economy, to educate and to provide knowledge, to connect the different players within the field of circular economy, and to enhance collaboration and foster circular economy projects. And this year, after our successful start, 2022, we have designed a broad program for 2023, and this includes a bunch of different formats, which is, for example, the CIRCULAZE on tour. We will be in companies on site, in hubs, and we will see live what circular economy means. The next one will be at BMW in April. We have, for example, exchange formats where we invite our partners and experts of a certain field, and we will have these Q&A sessions together. We will start a new, brand new podcast series, which will be CIRCULAZE Now. The first session, I think, will go out end of February, beginning of March. And the biggest events we will plan this year, we will do is our event, which is called CIRCULAZE Night. It's an evening event. And also the next day, we will have a whole conference day dedicated on circular economy. It will be our CIRCULAZE Festival. These two events will be end of October. So you can already perhaps save the date, 24th, 25th of October. Today, our topic will be logistics, and we have invited two startups. One is from Munich, it's Andrea Schneller from numi, and we have a second from France, it's GreenBig. We have invited Benoit Paget. And I have also the great pleasure, we have a really cool and savvy keynote speaker. It's Martell Beck, and he's the head of marketing and transport policy at at DB Cargo, and Martell will give us a short overview over what is the situation in the field of logistics and transportation, how can we reduce carbon, and also how really perfect collaboration between startups and corporates could work. So I'm very excited to hear about your numbers and all the situation in the field of logistics. Welcome, Martell.
Yes, hello everybody, and thank you, Natascha, for presenting me. Yes, I'm Martell from DB Cargo, and usually people ask me why does DB Cargo engage in CIRCULAZE, because usually we deal with really big quantities. DB Cargo, we transport 1 million tons of goods a day, and usually startups working in the logistics part are small, and what we need are big quantities. But our aim is to give the circular economy yes, a new focus on, because we see us as a part of circular economy, like in steel industry. where especially scrap is needed for steel, and transport has usually a huge impact on carbon emissions in all businesses, and that's why we think that DB Cargo is a solution, and we need partners who are willing to open their market for us. And today I want to give you a short short information about the logistic market and what DB Cargo is working on there. So just start sharing my screen. And hopefully everyone can see. Okay. Okay, sorry for that. As you can see, I mean, all of you know that carbon emissions are rising, and we are maybe the first generation who really notice climate change. And like Barack Obama said, we are maybe the last who can change. So it's an important time right now. We have to act, and as you can see here on the left side, that climate really changed, and it changed not somewhere in the world, in the polar region. It changed everywhere, in Europe, in Germany. We can feel it, we can see it. We notice that weather change, and that our climate change, and that the way we want to live will change. And here you can see this is the temperatures in Germany and globally, and you see they are rising, and they get more, and it got hotter and hotter, and that changes the way we live, because air gets hotter, the soil gets dry. It's like 80% of German forests are ill due to missing water. And this really affects our nature. It affects our diversity of animals living, and so we have to act, and we have to act now. That's why we decided, or Germany and all European countries decided to knock down carbon emissions. And it's really necessary, and all sectors in Germany started and reduced overall the carbon emissions from 1990 around 40%. So they really managed a lot, but transport did not reduce since 1990. Emissions grew, and this is a bad situation. We have to reduce emissions like 17 million tons. As you can see here on the left-hand side, cars are more or less the biggest problem, but in freight you have the heavy trucks, and the heavy trucks, they emit 40 million tons of carbon a year, and railway is only like, it's less than 1%. It's like 0.8 million tons, and these are the last diesel tracks we have. So there's a huge difference between heavy truck and rail. And the climate aim is to reduce emissions by 2030 by 17 million. And this is a lot. It means 35 million truck loads less than today. But how can we manage that in a growing market? And of course, as you know, as I work for Deutsche Bahn, the solution is the train, because we emit 80% less carbon, minimum 80%. We also can transport carbon free. It depends on the mix, how we produce our energy is a coal part of it, and we have more and more green technologies and less coal, and that's why we even reduce our carbon footprint from little to very low, to 100% carbon free. Also, heavy trucks work on reducing their emissions, but nevertheless, until no one thinks that until 2030, they are really able to be carbon free. Rail will be carbon free. And so we have to have a shift to rail, and we have to have it immediately. Otherwise, transport sector can't fulfill the aims, the targets of the Paris climate goals. Yes, we're dealing in a growing market, and growing market means the problem gets bigger and not smaller. Since we started the Paris goals in the 90s, the transport sector nearly doubled. And as you can see, especially heavy trucks doubled. And with the doubling of the trucks, the emissions grew and did not reduce. Rail grew like 47%. This is really a lot, because maybe you never have expected that also freight transport grows or grew within the last 20 or 30 years. Yes, it gets bigger and bigger, of course, and the network didn't grow the same way, but there are still a lot of capacities on our network. So we have to organize a change from heavy truck to rail in order to reduce emissions. Until 2030, we think that the market will grow another 20%. So also the carbon problem could grow another 20%. So we really have to act there. Like in our customers, or at least big companies in Germany and all over Europe, they understood. It's not we have to act, everyone has to act. Like Deutsche Post, DHL, they say they want to reduce their carbon footprint from 50% until 2025. 2025 is like tomorrow. So they really want to reduce it now. And a lot of companies want to act now, not just until 2040 or 2050. And so they have huge goals, and they change their productions, they change their consumption of energy. They focus on green energy, but they also change the way they transport. For example, DHL, they had the daily trains was standard within the 50 and the 60 years, having your mail and your parcels being transported by rail. Then they changed all the way to the truck, and now they return to the rail. And the reason is, it's not the price, the reason is carbon emissions. And so this is a great opportunity for us. And this is, yes, and I always say, we are like Intel inside, maybe you remember, Intel makes the computer better. You can't buy Intel, but you know the product is a better product, the computer is a better product because Intel chips are inside. And it's like the same with Deutsche Bahn. You can't buy Deutsche Bahn. It's hard for you to be our customer, but you know when you order a DHL package, the parcel is a better parcel because it was transported carbon-free by Deutsche Bahn. So we enable others to become a better company, and we help others being carbon-free. So this is our role, and this is our role in circular economy. We help others to become carbon-free. This is our mission. We're not alone on the market. There are plenty of competitors in our rail market. People usually think that we are the only ones in Germany, but we are not. There are plenty of companies like Captrain on number 4. This is SNCF, and they are a German company, and they, of course, they keep prices low. Like all those red ones in the line, they are all state-owned. state-owned means by Italy, by France, by Germany, and unfortunately, no one of us earns money. But this is another problem. So there are plenty of companies in the market. There is high competition. There are low prices, and so market is really attractive for those companies. They don't have to wait for Deutsche Bahn. They can choose out of a wide range of companies working in that growing market. DB Cargo, as we always say that one train replaces 52 trucks. So, and we run more than 3,000 trains a day. So we save 7 million tons of carbon a year. The aim until 2030 is saving another 17 million tons. So it's not just only by Deutsche Bahn, it's also with our sector. And we would love to double our market share until 2030. Hopefully we can raise it up to 25% in the transportation sector. This would be great for us in order to become profitable, but it's also would be great for our customers and for nature. I would love to give you an example where we are already part of circular economy, and this is steel. Usually you have those mines and from ports, and what they need is usually coal and those stones, and they need, of course, power, and then they put it all in the steel mill and they start producing steel, and out of steel in those rolling mills they get manufacture products for car industry, usually for car industry, and then finally you have scrap. And so this is a circle, but and scrap is necessary because it replaces it's kind of recycling for steel and makes production cheaper and more efficient. But transporting those tons, and it's 7.4 million tons a year, so it's a huge quantity. Transporting it by heavy truck can't be the answer. I mean, you talk about recycling and for saving nature, and then you transport it by truck and start polluting the air. No, it has to be transported carbon-free by rail, and so we save another 150,000 tons carbon a year by helping steel industry to become carbon-free. Honestly, for steel, becoming carbon-free is really hard because they need huge capacities of coal and gas, and they want to replace it by H2, but will take a long way to get a carbon-free steel industry. But our role is helping our customers becoming carbon-free, and steel is one of our circular economy examples. I have another one. We try to build with Coke, Krombacher, and large breweries a network of delivering drinks carbon-free from the plant to the stores. And of course, you bring the full bottles and then you return the empties. And there are huge numbers of empties and of bottles. And the idea is to put Coke and the large breweries and all of them together to get huge quantities to fill trains, because one train is like 52 trucks. So you need a lot of, you need huge numbers of bottles. And that's why we put all of them together and to try to create a network. Unfortunately, they have to standardize the kinds of bottles they have, because otherwise you have to pick all those bottles and bring Coke bottles to Coke and Krombacher to Krombacher, and that doesn't make sense. So they need a standardization of their products, and then we can help and make also drinks carbon-free. So this is the idea, creating being part of circular economy. And now you heard that we need huge quantities, but why are we interested in startups? I mean, startups usually don't have 7.5 million tons of scrap or something. The idea is that startups are really innovative, that they are able to create better logistic concepts than maybe we can do, because they have a different point of view and they have different industry. And that's why we would really love to work with startups, getting new ideas, developing ideas faster and better than we do, and also be part of digital business models, because we work in old economy and usually don't develop those digital new models. And hopefully we meet startups that can help us playing also a role in those new logistic concepts. This is the idea, and I would love to talk with all of you about how can Deutsche Bahn be a part of that. Thanks a lot. You have questions?
So, yeah, first of all, Martell, thanks a lot for this impressive numbers, very interesting. And sorry again for my coughing. I was ill last week, so I hope I will do that in the next couple of minutes. I'm okay. I have a question. Actually, we all know if you are driving on German Autobahns, on the highways, there are so many trucks still on the roads, and we would like to have more of them, even more of them on the rails. But what is the limitation? But I can think of that we could even have more goods transport by rail, but we have a limitation of, I would say, trains and also rails for sure. Could you say how big is the potential? How much tons of goods could we still shift on the rails if we would have the infrastructure, therefore?
I mean, this is the question of the capacity of rail. In my opinion, there is still capacity left. It depends on, is it daytime or is it nighttime? Usually cargo trains run in the night when passenger transport is sleeping. So then that's the time of DB Cargo and our competitors. I think there are still a lot of capacities, especially in European markets. It depends sometimes in Europe, in some corridors to the Netherlands, maybe there we have restrictions, but in general, there are still huge capacities left. So rail transport can grow and will grow, but how can we get those heavy trucks from the street? And unfortunately, the way we have logistics today has to change. Now we can help DHL, Deutsche Post, because they changed the way they produce. What we need are huge numbers. And what we need ideally is having a spot where we can fill our trains. And if you bring your products by heavy truck to the train, then put it on the train, then drive with the train, then put it again on a truck. And so you lose time and money. And you have to change at least huge companies have to change their logistic concept. It has to be focused on rail like they focused the years before on truck. Yeah. So this is one point. And the other one is we also are able to transport trucks. The trailers, just the trailer, bring it from Hamburg, like containers or trailers can bring it to Genua, so through the Alps, carbon free. But therefore the trailer has to be a special trainer that we can pull it up with our cranes. And only 10% of European trailers can be carried by a crane. And so a lot of companies want to change, but they don't have the right trailers. So we want a standardization of trailers.
And is this more, would you say, is it more task for the companies themselves, or would it also be a political question in the end, governance?
It is a political question, because companies usually need, when they change their logistics to rail, they need permissions, they need money, support. And there are a lot of programs that that help companies to change their logistic standards, and also rail companies need support, because Deutsche Bahn and all those our competitors, we really don't earn money, but for reinvesting we need huge amounts of money, millions and millions. And in Austria, for example, or in Switzerland, they get subsidies for investment, but we don't get those subsidies, at least a few millions, but we need hundreds of millions, because we can't get the prices up, because heavy truck is so cheap in comparison.
Yeah. That's always the problem. It has to be, the one has to be more expensive, or the other has to be cheaper. So one way or the other. And that's what I also wanted to ask you, if there are good examples from other countries who already did it better than Germany to put more goods on the trains, on the rail, than on the trucks still. Are there role models out there?
I think there are some role models, like Belgium and France. They changed the way how they the idea of subsidies for rail transport. The European Commission opened they have a kind of schemes. When can you give money to train companies, because competitors usually don't want that your competitor gets the money, and why. And so there is a strict system, and France and Belgium, they especially pay for bringing goods from street to train. And I love most the Austrian model, because it's based on tons. So if you are successful, the more success you have, the more money you get. It's the nicest idea. In Belgium and France, you get fixed amount of money, but it's not important how many tons you bring on rail.
Okay, so there are good ideas already there, and incentives for fostering this kind of transportation. So hopefully, yeah, we'll get on a better way. Still a way to go. Thanks a lot, Martell, for joining us this evening tonight. And yeah, happy to exchange further ideas, and also with our startups to come in 2023. We'll have a long list this year of 150 startups. So hopefully some of them will also help us in the field of logistics. Thank you, Martell. Have a nice evening.
Thanks.
Yeah, next in line, I already announced that we will have two really thrilling startups this evening, and first in line is numi. We have the co-founder with us. It's Andrea Schneller. And perhaps one sentence, what does numi? Numi is a software-based digital infrastructure for circular product take-back, and they are supporting companies to become more sustainable and face the increasing scarcity, which we have a lot scarcity at the moment. Yeah, so welcome, Andrea. Very pleased to have you here, and we are keen to hear your presentation and your pitch.
Great. First of all, thanks for inviting us, Natasha, and already giving this short introduction on what we do. I'm really happy to go a little deeper on that. Just trying to share my screen. Let's see if it works out. I think it looks good, right? Okay, cool. Then, happy to meet all of you. I'm Andrea, co-founder of numi, and as Natasha said, we are on the field of reverse supply chains. So we believe in the potential of like closing circles, and especially around the topic of product extension and of course product recovery and material recovery at the end of life. That's the part where we feel we definitely have some work to do and some infrastructure to build up. But maybe before we jump into what we do exactly, I would like to do a small setting the scene, sharing some numbers. I think we can all agree that right now our economy is mainly linear. Maybe you just heard about the recent announcement of the latest circularity gap report in January at the World Economic Forum in Davos, where it was announced that right now the number is 7.2%. Globally, that's the number how circular we are. That means, of course, more than 90% of all resources are lost. And if we look a little deeper, we can see that, especially like also with relation to global greenhouse gases, 70% of all emissions are somehow related to the material handling and use. I think that's a big number. So we extract a lot right now. We use a lot of materials, and we also lose a lot of materials on the way. And that is even more more of a problem if you look into how we use products, because, for example, in the area of durable consumer goods, more than 54% of products that are thrown away are still working or could be repaired. And that really leaves us with a huge gap. And of course, on the other hand, with the huge potential to rethink our way, how we produce, but also how we use products. And that kind of kept us thinking, and we really asked ourselves the question, like, what if products would be used longer? Like, what is the potential here, and what can we do to help this process? And when we started digging deeper into this topic, we came across the problem that even if companies are starting to look into how they can recover products and resources, they mostly struggle because it's not that easy to do right now. We just have no smart ways. We don't have really good infrastructure for doing that. That is on the one hand connected to the access to end customers. So you really have to kind of reach your end customer. As soon as the product is gone, most companies don't have a good connection anymore. In order to invite them to somehow give them back or reuse them, most companies miss experience in how they can recover the products and how potential downstream retail chains could look like. And of course, connected to the missing experience, it's mostly connected to high cost and also manual effort to set up this kind of take back and recovery programs. So just some difficulties, and they all can be somehow summed up in this view on the reverse supply chain. There is just currently no direct connection between the relevant actors, which is on the one hand, of course, the end customer who has some product, who in this case becomes somehow the supplier for companies. Then, of course, the brands themselves that have to look into potentials, what they could do with products that are recovered. And of course, the reverse supply chain in the background, recovery partners, refurbishment partners, etc., need to be connected to this process in order to make it work. That's like the picture that we have right now. They are in many cases not connected. Sometimes it's even not clear who they are, especially with regards to recovery partners. And that's exactly the point where we start with our solution. So connecting those partners or those party stakeholders to make sure that we can really set up working reverse supply chains. So what does it mean? How does it work? For us, we do have three main pillars with our solution, where we look at the phase, like from use phase until end of life. So the reverse supply chain. The first one definitely is, that's kind of the gateway. You have to get your products back at some point. So trade in, that's one part of the solution, is really reaching your customers with an attractive offer for used products. Then, of course, things are coming back. So how to handle them, what to do with them. We can support here to make sure that products are really brought into good circles, and this is done in a cost-efficient way. And of course, it makes it easier if this is somehow trackable. So data is also an important point for us to monitor and optimize this process and make really sure we have a learning system that just goes along this whole value chain of from use phase to end of life. which of course is also important in terms of transparency and this whole sustainability regulations that are coming up, where companies really have to report on their emissions and also on their have to take responsibility for their products, also where they end up. If we go a little deeper into these 3 pillars, first of all, we do have the numi trade-in. That is really a easily integratable plug-in for existing online shops. So we really help brands make an offer to their end customers to give back products. That's important to make it an just interesting and attractive option, and of course also make it easy to give it back. So good just user and customer experience in this case. But of course it's also important what happens behind the scenes. So on the one hand, it's important to get a feeling of what is the condition of this product, and in the best case do some kind of a pre-sorting, like is this product maybe still usable for resale? Do you maybe, can you repair it, can you refurbish it? Or is it just important to recycle it in the end? So this is part of the solution, and of course also the process itself, like the integrated shipping, like how can you come back, pay out, how much of an incentive can you offer based on product condition, and especially also a good customer communication to make sure you're transparent and the customer also knows what's going on. That's the first part of the solution. The second part is the handling. There, from our perspective, it's really important. I think also Martell just said, also in the logistics space, we have to rethink how our process and how our supply chains work. And that's definitely also true for this reverse supply chain topic. So it's really important to have this mindset of, in the first place, trying to keep products in use. So really extending the lifetime of products, and of course also to recover resources responsibly. For that, we do believe that in a circular economy, it's really about ecosystems. So there will be different partners that might be the best ones for different product categories, for different circular use cases. So it's about a strong network that we connect to our solution, where companies really find the best option, also based on the pre-sorting and the condition of the product. So really looking into different streams with the goal to keep transport ways as low as possible, because in the end, if you bring everything to one place just to find out like what are the products, how do they look like, what can you do with it, of course then you have maybe have to ship them to another place. Everything that can somehow be at least pre-sorted is definitely a potential to save transport ways, in this case of course also emissions. Therefore that's an important part. And the second part is definitely the data. That's on the one hand connected to the trade-in and distribution process. So a smart algorithm that learns about like what are, like, if, for example, customers give some information on what is the product condition, is that normally really right? It can be also based on some pictures that are uploaded of the condition, etc. So the algorithm is really learning about the conditions, and in this case also can give some even better predictions on how to distribute the products and what is the customer payout that can be offered, in terms of or keeping in mind that of course the goal is to somehow be also economically viable on this, and not just ecologically. And the more data you get, like the more products that are coming back, the more you can learn about it. Of course, there's also some interesting data insights that can be put together here, in terms of maybe how much is the product lifetime extension that you can reach with your products, how much resources are recovered in the end. That's of course also in close connection to the handling network, where we are in connection to the partners, also looking into like feedback loops in terms of, okay, getting some information back from them, what happens to the products, what are they doing. And all of that compiled together is definitely a good basis like for upcoming regulations, also with regards to impact reporting, etc., because that's definitely one of the drivers around this topic of circularity. So how can brands benefit from this? On the one hand, of course, there are a lot of numbers looking into like new products versus remanufactured or refurbished products. There's definitely a high potential of reducing emissions, especially around energy in this context. If you don't produce new, but use like the products that are already out there. Again, for example, by resale, that's one of the big upcoming markets. Right now, the e-commerce market is growing 11 times faster than the normal e-commerce market. So big field where more and more companies are also looking into how can they themselves tap into it, because like the e-commerce market is not new, but right now most brands don't have any market share in there. So that's becoming more and more interesting. And of course, also the topic of customer expectations around sustainability, and in this context, raising customer loyalty in terms of being a responsible and also sustainable brand is definitely one topic to consider. So looking into our impact, what can we do? How can we help with this topic? On the one hand, it's definitely about we need some systemic shift in here. If we have to make it more easy for companies to adopt circular services and also circular structures. And therefore, we can really help by offering better infrastructures. That's the second part, the structural impact, helping to build up digital infrastructure to really make this reverse supply chain somehow trackable and tangible in terms of data, but of course also connecting that closely to the operative part, like the real supply chains where products are handled. It's definitely a potential, like I think Natasha was just talking about resource scarcity. It's becoming more and more attractive to regain products and also materials. I think we talked about the mobility sector, we talked about the steel sector. This is a great resource the company can use, so secondary materials compared to primary materials. So therefore, it's an important step to look into the materials impact and the potential to post-use of resources. And of course, it's an emissions impact. Like in the end, the reuse of existing products definitely has a lower footprint. And why does it make sense to start now? I think we're all feeling there's some acceleration around this topic, and I think that's a good thing. On the one hand, definitely the European Union is pushing this topic with the Circular Economy Action Plan. They request companies to take responsibility for their products, also along the entire value chain, for example, in fashion and electronics. That's also quite close. So there are regulations that are coming in 2025, 2027, etc. So it's right around the corner. There's definitely a customer demand. And what you also have to consider, there are more and more competitors that are also considering going circular. It's one of the high strategic topics in a lot of companies. So therefore, it's a good time to get started. One example, like how can we bring our solution into a loop, but also into reality. That's one case. We are in the area of durable consumer goods. The fashion industry is quite interesting. One of our pilot partners is a brand for kids fashion. They really aim for full circularity, so their products are already quite sustainable in terms of materials and also quality, durability, etc. And they right now want to go one step further. They know that their products, of course, kids grow, clothes don't grow, so therefore they know quite well how long their products are worn in on average. They offer a trade-in for the used products. They currently do the cleaning refurbishment themselves because they really want to learn also a lot out of this about the products. But of course, there will be also handed over to a partner in the future. And they aim for resale of the product in their own pre-loved category. So they have it within their own online shop. And they offer up to 25% of the product value as a voucher or payout if customers are giving back their used products. So that's just one example. There are definitely different options, like one depending on the product are focusing more on the resales, and some others are more into refurbishment. And also with some products, it really makes sense to kind of extend use time and then really go for good recycling options. That's the important part to make like that different options just possible. We're right now, like we developed the MVP, we're right now in pilot phase, we're heading for market entry this year. And maybe just when I talk about us, just some faces, we're 3 co-founders, we have a great community and other experts in our background that are helping us to push forward this topic. And just to wrap it up, what are we looking for? Of course, if you're a company considering taking back your product, let's talk. If you're a potential partner in some ways, and that's definitely also interesting. We do believe in ecosystems, and if there are any other topic you like to exchange, then I'm also happy to talk. And therefore, here are my contact details. Add me on LinkedIn, write me an email as you want to. I'm happy to chat. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea, for your great presentation. Very, very interesting what you showed us. Also, yeah, numbers I find quite astonishing, like the e-commerce is growing 11 times faster as the other commerce field. It's really interesting. But from your experience, how is the field of circular economy developing at the moment? Because the players are there, the numbers are well known. Do you see the momentum right now? And if so, why is it now?
I think there are different factors. So I definitely see the momentum, still early stage. I think that's what we all experienced in the field. Like it's way more than 3 years ago, but it's still early because a lot of companies right now talk about it. This topic is really connected to a lot of also like company strategies right now. It is communicated quite openly. But the problem is that really bringing it into action, most companies are still at the beginning. It's still also a cost topic because right now you do need some investments to create those infrastructures. That's in general a topic. If no established infrastructures are there, then it's always more costly compared to like maybe the old linear ways. So therefore, I think in our times of resource scarcity, we do have like really unstable supply chains. We do have regulations upcoming on European level. So there are a lot of factors that are pushing this topic. I do believe it's not a question if it will come, but it's more like it will come definitely, but the question is how fast. But right now, that's exactly this early stage where you need some really clear decisions also on a high level within companies to say, okay, let's do this right now. Let's right now build up the expertise, the knowledge and the infrastructures in order to get this going.
And in which fields do you see the greatest potential? Which kinds of industries or talking about products are most likely to switch from linear to circular or to reuse?
Basically, I would say all industries where resources are becoming more scarce. So looking at like the classical industries for sure, like also steel, automotive industry, all of them are heavily relying on materials. That's definitely a huge field, but you also see like from the other side, coming from the consumer perspective and the expectations from consumers, especially also within this field of consumer products, especially durable consumer products, there's a huge field of where circular solutions, especially around resale, reuse, and also recycling, are becoming more and more important. Also in terms of, because there we really have quite good numbers on the waste that we create and the harm we do to our planet. I think there's really from this direction also coming a lot of pressure. So this is also a high growth field, I would say.
Yeah, we will see that. We will be in April at BMW to see how they reuse their materials, which are really also big scarcity on this. Perhaps last question, as we want to help also why we are doing this, as I said in my intro, we want to connect all the players in this field, in this ecosystem. So you as a startup, you are still in a relatively early stage. What would be the next steps? What would you need most urgently? How can we help or also our audience help?
We definitely need companies who are ready to try out things, because in the end, you can have a lot of good ideas, but it's only like you can only learn, like we as a startup, but also companies, if we start doing things. And therefore we talk about pilots, we start about scaling up pilots. So coming really out of this only pilot phase. But therefore for us, the most important point is talking to those people within companies that are ready to start thinking about solutions, that are really ready to start pilots and learn together, because this is also really a learning journey where right now I would say no one has the final answers, and therefore this is kind of a mindset topic. Of course, also around that, like I'm really around a lot in the ecosystem of circularity, always happy to connect and also find some synergies, intersections. Sometimes it's not the obvious ones, but they're super valuable. So therefore I'm always try to talk about my topics and then see also what's coming back. So just say I'm quite open to ideas also from everyone who listens.
Okay, so it would be great to follow up on this also, and to see you on our events in autumn at the CIRCULAZE Night and CIRCULAZE Festival as well, because that's what we want to create a space where people can connect and exchange ideas, because it's all about exchanging and collaboration for sure. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Good that you were here, and have a good evening. And the next,
thank you. Bye.
The next in line is already waiting. We saw him popping up at the beginning. It's we have Benoit Paget from Rouen. It's complicated to switch between English and French. Bonsoir, Benoit.
Hi, nice to meet you. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir. Yeah, and you are the founder and co-founder and CEO from GreenBig, which is a nice name. I like it a lot. And GreenBig has developed an innovative solution for that simplifies the collection and recycling of plastic bottles, which are a big problem, as we know. And you do that via a small trick. It's gamification, which is always a nice thing to have. And it's called the B-Bot. And now I would like to give you the stage and to explain how you do it, what you do. So we are really curious to learn more about GreenBig. The stage is yours, Benoit.
With a great pleasure. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about our B-Bot solution, which is dedicated to the recycling of PET bottles. So if you're okay, I will just share my screen in order to show a quick presentation. Is it okay for you?
Yes.
Okay, great. First of all, let's talk a little bit about the issue of the plastic bottle pollution, because we don't always figure the big numbers it is. We are talking about 500 billions of PET bottles produced every year in the world, which is absolutely huge. And what is right and really a pity is that only 9% of these bottles are recycled today, which is quite a shame, considering actually a lot of bottling companies are looking for some raw material in order to use recycled PET instead of virgin PET to make new bottles. So for us, it's quite surprising that on one side we have bins all over the world full of plastic bottles, and the other side, industrial companies that would like to enter into a circular economy using recycled bottle to make new bottles, but can't do it because they don't have enough raw material. If we target France, which is somehow a rich country, we have about 17 billions of these bottles consumed every year, and only 60% are recycled today, which is not at all a good number. What is the good news is that actually the rules are changing, because the regulation is now moving. It's becoming an obligation for industrial companies to integrate about 25% of recycled PET in their bottle, which is a good news. It will be 30% in 2029. It means that, for example, in France, it will be mandatory to recycle about 77% of these bottles, but at the moment it doesn't work at all, and we can't reach these targets because the collection and the sorting system are not efficient enough. What exists, for example, which works quite well, is the deposit system. We have about 11 countries in Europe that use this system, and of course, it allows to have great, not great, but better results on the PET plastic bottles, but it's not enough. And at the moment, what is very important is that, for example, Indorama, which is the world leader in a PET production, wants to shift from the use of about 20% of recycled PET and 80% of virgin, let's say petrol to make PET. In 2029, they want to go to 80%, sorry, of recycled PET and only 20% of petrol, which is, of course, a very good news for the environment and the planet, because each time we recycle 1 ton of PET, we can save about 1.9 ton of petrol. But at the moment, we don't know yet how they're going to do that if we don't change the global system, because at the moment it doesn't work. This is an example of how complicated the recycling chain is inefficient, because in many countries you have a sorting bin in which you put your plastic bottles and quite often many other wastes which are supposedly recyclable. The second step is to put all these bins into a truck that compacts all the raw material all together. It makes it very, very hard to sort. So you have a lot of loss because of this. And the global chain is very inefficient. It costs a lot. It pollutes a lot. We have a great loss of raw material, especially PET. And at the end, we don't have enough recycled PET to make a bottle with it. The existing system, such as a reverse vending machine that you can find in deposit markets such as Germany's, are of course improving this system, but not enough. Not enough, because at the end it still costs a lot. That's why we created a fully new solution with a very high densification at source directly in our BPOT machine, which converts immediately plastic PET bottles into sorted flakes by colors. We can see on this slide that we can jump on about 10 steps of the recycling chain. At the end, it's much less costs, of course, because less cubic meter of plastic bottle and less transformation of bottles, and high value raw material, because at the end we have sorted flakes that can be directly recycled in the recycler industry. So the value of the ton is higher, and we make this system profitable, which is quite a revolution, because thanks to the reselling of the raw material, we can finance the global system of the collection and sorting and recycling of the PET bottle. How does it work? Actually, we'll see a short video. In fact, first of all, we recognize the bottle. So we collect not only the bottle, but a lot of data about the bottle in order to be sure to sort it by color directly in the machine. We have a lot of information concerning the bottle that allows us to have a great way to follow the volumes of plastic collected and to have a great efficiency on the recycling channel. You will see that, of course, if the bottle is not accepted, it's rejected. We have a lot of analysis of the bottle, then it's directly shredded into a shredder that shred the bottle in once it's already sorted by color. You will see that, in fact, at the end, we have great saving on the volume and make great saving on the cost, because the density is very high. It's about 25 times more than the classical bottle and about 7 times more than compacted bottles. And we have a great user interface to be able to incite people to recycle, whatever the country or the regulation is. We can also, of course, adapt the machine to the system, but we especially can incite people with rewards or whatever incitation program we can put in it. So then it's a great opportunity for supermarkets to create loyalty programs with this technology. At the end, we have sort of flakes that we resell directly in the recycling process at a higher value, as I said. Well, actually, the proof is there, because actually we have a great market fit. Since 6 months, we became in France the leader with this kind of RVM, because it brings a great value to the supermarkets that are handling now all these machines. Much less cost, much less time, much less volume. So at the end, it's much easier for them to have this kind of solution instead of a classical compacting machine. So in about 18 months, we have now about 50% of market share. What we observed is that the more machine we have, the more plastic bottle we collect, thanks to these innovative solutions. Even by people, I mean, in 1 year, we ramped up from 19 bottles per people to 25. So it's very virtuous. We are in the heart of a great virtuous cycle, because we have impact on 4 topics on environmental, of course, because we save and we recycle all the bottle we collect. Societal, because actually we are very incentive and we can educate people thanks to a bottle to raise environmental awareness. We save energy, as I said. Each time we recycle 1 ton of PET, we save about 1.9 ton of petrol. And of course, also economical, because we distribute or we give purchasing power thanks to the reduction coupon we give to the consumer. We already installed about 500 of these Bpot in the supermarkets of retailers, such as Leclerc, Carrefour, which are big retailers in France. We had about 9 million of sales in 2022. We doubled our sales compared to 2029, and we will double our sales in 2023 with a goal of about 130 million euros in 2027, allowing us to collect about 5.6 billion of bottles. Considering today, France is our first market, but we are not targeting to expand our solution in other countries, especially countries where they don't have still deposit market and where we need a self-financing concept to be able to collect these bottles. That's why we are now building what we consider being the world leader in PET flakes collections. That will allow us, of course, to collect a lot of recycled PET, but also to avoid about, on these figures, about 3,000 tons of CO2 by 2027. Thanks for listening to this presentation. Of course, I can answer a few questions. You have also, of course, my email and my phone number if you are interested in more information about what we do.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Benoit. This is very smart. This Bpot would like to have this also in Germany, and that brings us to a question from the audience. When and how do you plan to expand internationally? Because now it's just in France. It's it's always, you have to begin somewhere. You begin at the home market. So what would be your next markets you have in plan?
Yeah, actually, we are now beginning our international expansion. We begin in two countries where still, I mean, more south countries, because actually, when you consider the global issue, you have more plastic pollutions in the south countries that don't have tap water. Well, actually, we are now targeting, for example, Tunisia, where there is a great environmental issue and where people consume a lot of plastic bottles. We are also targeting Portugal, where we already installed a few machines. So, in fact, we are targeting countries where, especially in priority countries where there is a huge environmental issue. And of course, Tunisia is a small country, but close to Tunisia, we have a country such as Egypt, with about 100,000 million of people, and they don't have today the money, I mean, to develop the collection programs widely. So we are working on this, and we are targeting to deploy our BBOT solution in these countries because of the great potential there is, both due to the environmental issue, to the potential market concerning the collection of recycled PET.
Yeah, and this also brings us to our next question. What challenges do you foresee in getting your innovation implemented at big scale? Because this is always the thing, yeah? So how to scale the business?
Well, for us, it means that we need to deploy, of course, our BBOT solution all over countries. We are now, we just launched a funding operation. So we are, of course, we need some money to do that. And we have a great, great expectations about that, because actually we think that it's, well, the first meetings we have were very, very promising. So we need, of course, money, because we need money to finance the machine. We have an economic model based on a free deposit. So in fact, for us, the BBOT machine creates some revenues coming from the recycled PET we collect. We have a very, very innovative and very profitable business model. So at the end, we need, of course, a little bit money to finance the machines by themselves.
And the money till now came from French investors, or how you are funded?
Yeah, mostly French investors. We made two fundings at the moment, one in 2018 and one in 2021, in order to finance the R&D at the beginning and to finance the launching of the deployment of the machine in 2021, because actually we began the deployment in 2021. So now we want to accelerate the deployment, not only in France. That's why we are looking for a little bit more money today.
Okay. Yeah, money is always the thing somehow. And perhaps to a last question, because we also have to see where are we going to. We still have a lot of plastics, but what would you wish for long-term change in this industry? And what limits do you see also to your vision?
Well, I guess the solution would be not to consider the plastic, the PET plastic, or the plastic bottle, or the PET bottle as a waste, but as a resource. I mean, it's somehow it's transformed. It's a resource that has been transformed, and we don't have to burn it today. We have to get it. We have to transform it again. We have to use it as a resource and not as a waste. I think that considering the plastic waste not has something that has to be disappeared, that's something that has a great value and that must be properly collected and recycled, is for me a key issue for the plastic pollution. Of course, the most value the plastic will have. Of course, if it's gold tomorrow, nobody will think about burning some gold. So I think the key point is there. In our countries, we don't see that somehow deploying solutions to collect these plastic is very hard for maybe developing countries. So it's very, very important to have some innovative economic models that are self-financed in order to have the possibility to deploy it at a great scale and have a big impact to collect and recycle all these bottles that are today often too often in our ocean.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and it all starts, as always, with the mindset. It has to change our big perspective, the big picture first.
The circular economy is a key point, and of course, in the circular economy, as we heard just before, I mean, considering a product and not as a waste, and the waste as a resource is a key point for us. So it is that's what we're trying to do.
And last question, how is this topic discussed in France? I think in Germany we are now starting somehow to discuss the thing. It's not a new topic, but now it gets momentum because of this multiple crisis we are facing. How is it in France? Is it already there in the, would you say, is it mainstream, or is it still a topic for the avant-garde, so to say?
No, mentalities are changing now, and I think consumers are now waiting for new solutions in order to be able to consume properly, and they somehow need this kind of thing. And what we see is that it's something that we have a success with the people using the machine and these solutions. So of course I'm pretty sure that it will be more and more need. In France, for example, we are now and government is now changing his policy in order to deploy this kind of solution at the big scale, such as deposit system. We consider our solution is a very good way to have a virtuous, economically and ecologically speaking, a virtuous deposit system, much more than the one existing in northern countries of Europe. And I'm pretty sure that France will develop that very quickly, because we need to achieve our goals in terms of plastic, in terms of recycling rate of plastic.
Yeah, and that affects us all, as we know. Okay. Benoit, thanks a lot for joining us tonight and for your great presentation. And hopefully we'll stay in touch and we'll exchange also ideas from today on. Good night, au revoir, bonne soirée. And for the other one, merci. And for the other ones, for the audience, thanks for listening in. Great to have you here as our guest. And please make sure to note the next upcoming trend tour, which will be on March 6th. It's also always Monday. It's always 5 o'clock CET. And the topic will be construction, also very, very important and thrilling topic. Good night, and have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.